Okay, so today we are on brainstorming on school application abroad with specific experiences shared from EPO scholarship and UNU-EHS admissions to the United Nations University and University of Bonn. So these are specific experiences shared. I would also want to make known that we are not therefore, or I am not in any way speaking on behalf of any of these institutions, but only sharing my experience in relation to admission and my current stay in the country and even studying. So today, just to go straight forward, we'll be going from introduction to the areas in application when applying for your scholarship and schooling. We'll also be having discussion with another scholar that is here with us in the person of Abib, and we'll be having the question and answers session. And then finally, we call the meeting to an end. To begin with, on the 18th of March, I received a letter that stated that on behalf of the Rhenish, Friedrich, and all the German word letters, I have been accepted into the Institute for Environment and Human Security for the United Nations University. And they mentioned that they were very pleased to inform me of my successful application. I was really, really excited. Like, you can imagine the goosebump that was on my body. And I'm sure that the same thing can happen to you, or the same thing is in the process of happening to you. I really want to use the opportunity again to welcome you to this particular session. Have you been having a lot of questions on your application? Have you been having several thoughts? Have you drafted your document? You don't know if it's really that good. You want to see some examples. I think this is the best platform for you, or this is the best discussion for you. So now let's take a dive into areas of application. When it comes to scholarship application, it's not just only the application, but you have to look at three very important things. One is the scholarship itself. You don't have the money to sponsor yourself in abroad, so you need this particular institution or this body that can fund you to study. Secondly is the university. Which university do you want to study with? What course do you want to offer? That should be able to guide you. And third, visa application. This is very important. I've had testimonials of individuals who got their scholarship, they got the university acceptance. However, when they went to the visa interview, they got declined. And that was very disheartening, and we should be very, very careful of this. So now to begin with the scholarship application, I know most of you have seen this document in front of me. It's online, it's on the website. It involves all the entire things you have to know when applying for the German scholarship, DAAD, specifically with the United Nations University. It's a joint master's program. You can read this, you can get accustomed to it, follow the list, you see how they have stated and explained on how to do applications very, very well. So do well to read through, and at the end, you have to send your document to mastergeorisk@ehsunu.edu. The checklist is also there. The DAD EPOS checklist, the DAD application form, the scholarship motivation letter, the professional reference from your current employer, your work certificate. And I would also want you to refer to a particular link that will be dropped in the YouTube channel on a more detailed way of applying for your scholarship in relation to all the itemized application document that you are supposed to submit. You'll find that link very, very relevant for yourself, especially the scholarship motivation letter. Secondly, the university, and I'm speaking now in relation to the International Joint MSc program, Geography of Environmental Risk and Human Security. I would want to reiterate again that I'm not speaking on behalf of these schools or that, but I'm sharing my experience in relation to application. So now in university, after identifying your university, you have to go through the necessary documents that you have to submit. Kindly take note, it differs from school to school when applying for scholarship and applying for your school. But with this joint master's program, you can do both of them concurrently, where you apply for your school and also apply jointly with the scholarship. The only thing that is different is that you would have one particular different document when it comes to the scholarship application, and also your motivation letter. You'd have to have a different motivation letter for your scholarship application. Very, very important. So take a look again, once again, go through the needed documents you need so that you can get yourself well abreast and successfully apply and hopefully get accepted. Now, the very most important document in your scholarship application is your motivation letter. Your motivation letter. This is very, very important. Everybody have a different way of drafting their motivation letter. This was my motivation letter, but I eliminated the second one for the scholarship. I just wanted you to have a look at it, but I have cleaned out some things that are very specific to me, because I know a lot of students are very lazy and they don't mind just copying everything that someone has done previously to create their own motivation letter. So you should do well to have a very strong introduction that would compel them to read your motivation letter going forward. Apart from that, you should be able to tell them why you are passionate about that particular course you want to study. Apart from that, you should do well to mention the stronghold of the school. Why did you choose that school? And what experience do you have that can match to that particular studies you want to further? And you should be able to conclude nicely with how you want to return back to your country and create a very compelling, a practical environment for not only yourself, but your entire country to live in. And you should sign. Almost all documents are documents that you have to sign on. So I'm going to continue. So as I mentioned, a very important document is your motivation letter. You should be able to put in the necessary effort to make sure it is very, very compelling. And then one of the last area before we go to the discussion with myself and Habib on what you have to know, or some general nitty-gritties on scholarship application. One particular area that has always been ignored is the visa interview. Unlikely for the visa or your visa application, every country differs. From one country to another, it is different for every visa application. There's no particular format for application. You just have to go to your country's website to check what are their necessary documents you have to submit. And please take note that the most important, apart from the visa application, is your visa interview. When you get there, there's this particular question that they always want to ask you, and that is your ties to your country, and if you are going to come back to your country. This was my experience. They asked me this question, and I said, I am coming back to my country. I'm working in my country. I'm doing this and that in my country. I am coming back to my country. You have to have the name of your school in your head when you go for the visa interview. You also have to know your course and mention some of the topics you are studying, because they asked me this question during my visa interview. They asked me, what courses are you studying? How many years are you studying in that country? What have been your qualification or field of research, and why did you decide to pursue this particular field of study? Those were the questions they asked me. I was so surprised, especially when they asked me, what are some of the topics in your field of study or in the course you are going to do? This question blew my mind. I started a little, but because I was into the sustainability field. I was able to mention some topics, but please, just to mention that you should do well to reference your documents. What are you going to study? Go to the institution, go to their portal, look at their various courses and the topics they'll be taking you through. And it's very important. If you have any question, we'll do well to attend to that. So now, very important is a discussion with scholars. And I'm very, very excited to have with me Abib. So Abib and myself would be throwing some key highlights on these questions listed at the front of the screen. Most importantly, before Abib comes in, I would like to also read a remark by one of the scholars that was supposed to join us today. She mentioned that most students just don't research enough. And that is very, very true. You find students asking questions that are on the website. You have to research to get what you want. Surprisingly, myself, I didn't have anybody to cross-check my documents or look at my documents, etc. I had to toil day and night to submit my application. And it will blow your mind that an application that was, the deadline was 15th of December for this particular study. I submitted mine on the 12th of December. And even I submitted it. However, the document didn't go through because the network wasn't good, and I didn't observe that the network wasn't good. Something just told me on the 14th of December in the evening to go take a look at my email and just look at it. I opened my email just only to find out that the document I sent for my scholarship didn't go through. That's to tell you how lousy students can be or individuals can be, because after sending that document, I should have cross-checked if it had gone or not. So these are just some examples. Apart from students not being or not researching enough, they are very, very lazy. And then the frequently asked questions, FAQ section answers a lot of them too. So she also mentioned that when applying for this, you have to go to the FAQ session and there is a lot of answers to your questions. Look at them. And then dealing with young people who want easy things is very hard. We want easy things. Just imagine, I had thousands of students coming into my DM on LinkedIn to say that they want me to assist them in the scholarship application. And I mentioned to them that, okay, let me schedule a meeting so that we all come together and discuss the scholarship questions we want so that we can address them. And surprisingly, none of them were able to show up. So you can imagine how students can be. They want easy thing. And one person cannot answer everybody. And that is one thing that students should know. And she also said that personally, she didn't ask anyone anything, and she had to find answers in Google and website. Thank you so much, Judith, for sharing your insight. I would love to hear from Abib what he thinks. So to begin, Abib, what was your greatest challenge in your scholarship application and university application?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to join you, Betty. I think my greatest challenge in this application was like gathering my documents. I think because I think the scholarship happens to be a very rigorous scholarship. It is unlike the scholarship that you can just apply for by submitting some documents, and you feel like DAD requires you to submit a signed and stamped document, letter-headed documents from professors, from employers. So it is not they are not documents you can just wake up any day and say you want to get the documents. I think that was very challenging. The fact that I had to travel down to my university, talk to my professors, get the stamp letter. That was like the really difficult part. And I think it took me a year to prepare for the scholarship. Because because I saw the scholarship late. The previous year, I saw it very late. It was around December 10 or thereabouts. That was when I got to know about the scholarship. So I felt, oh, this is really challenging for me to start gathering all my documents, requesting for transcripts and all. So I said, let me wait till the next round of the application. So, even before then, I've started gathering all the documents, everything signed, stamped. I was keeping them. I was putting them like an envelope, like waiting for the application to open. And when the application opened, when the application opened, I had to, look at the LinkedIn. And fortunately for me, I had a classmate that was in the program. So I had to ask him, what should I do? What is this? Can you check this document? So it was a whole lot of, a lot of stress for me. But at the end of the day, I think like when you were talking, you said you submitted the application around 10. I think I had to wait like 12 or 13. But I've gathered the documents, but I was like just waiting towards the end of the, for them to review it very fresh. So that was, but gathering of the documents was really challenging for me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. That reminds me, I said I submitted around 10th, but I had to press submit on the 14th because the document didn't go initially. And I think gathering the documents, as you said, is a very challenging process for a lot of us, for everybody, because that was very back-breaking for me. I had to sit down nights consecutively to work on my motivation letter, to reach out to my professor and say, please send me this recommendation letter. At a point, my professor even sent me the recommendation letter without the stamp. And the school had to reach back to me and say that, tell your professor to send us the letter himself because he didn't stamp it. And that one, I had to beg my professor to send them the document. So you can imagine those challenges. It's a challenge for everyone. We all pass through it. So I don't think anybody should have an excuse in doing that particular process. So I'll go with the second question, Abib. What strategy did you use in completing your documents?
I think that was quite an easy task because, as people coming from like developing countries, we always have our eyes on different scholarships, and be it the Erasmus Mundus, the DAD, the Mastercard scholarship. But I think something that works really well for me is I have an Excel file that I put all the schools I want to apply to. So if it is Erasmus program, so what are the requirements for this program? I have like, maybe I'm applying for a flood risk program, Erasmus, what are the requirements, motivation letter, degree certificate, academic transcripts, DAD posts, what are the materials that I need, reference letter from employer, reference letter from professors, motivation letter. So I list everything down. So whenever I get a particular document and I tick it, I know that one is, I've sorted that one out. Then next time I tick another one. I think it works really well for me. While we're going on with the program, I had to like go and open my, I call it the name of the folder, graduate school checklist. That is what I call it, my graduate school checklist. So I go back there, if I'm reaching out to a professor in a university, the name of the professor will be there, the name of the school, his field of study or his field of research. So I think it's something that you can do that really helps all the time. So yeah, it's worked really well. So you can also, try to have an Excel format or even like a folder. You have like a folder document. If you're applying for a DAD, you have a separate folder for DAD. And if you're applying for another university, maybe in Canada or Australia, you have like a separate folder for that and the documents that are required. I think if you can, you try to use something like that, then you won't be able to like miss out on deadlines and application periods.
I think this is brilliant. And this is one thing that most people always find challenge with, and that is when they see a scholarship application, that is when they then start requesting their transcripts from their university. I find this to be a very poor habit because you can't meet the deadline. Before the school will then put together your document and bring or compile, give you that particular document you need, it's going to really take a very long time. So this was a very interesting thing you mentioned, and I also did. Immediately I completed school, I ensured that every document, that I needed, I collected it from my school, including my transcript, including my English proficiency. I collected all these documents and I kept them in a folder, as Abibi just said right now. I kept it in that folder and I told myself that I'm going to keep on compiling this with every document. So immediately that link for this particular scholarship and school was sent to me around December. And I decided to start the application 10th of December. And the deadline of the application was 15th of December. So you can imagine, I just went to my folders of documents. I just started selecting them for each of them. And the only thing I didn't have was my recommendation letter from my professor. For work recommendation letter, that one was already sorted. So for my professor, I just had to reach out to him and say, please do this for me. And when I finished, you have to appreciate your professors. And this is one thing that most students also don't do, where the professor will sit down, type the entire thing, do it for them, and they just say, thank you, sir, and they go away. I don't know, Abi, what you think about this, but you have to appreciate them.
I tell intending scholarship applicants to, I understand how, how difficult it is to like have a relationship with your professors back in, your country. But I think like you have to really build it. It is something you have to build. Like when I was living, even if you are not a nice person, just make sure like you try to be nice, because you are going to need them in your career, be it you want to have your master's degree, you want to have your PhD, one way or the other, it always links back to your bachelor's degree. So it's very important to have like a very good relationship. I'm not saying you should have a relationship with all your lecturers, but you have some, like 2 or 3 that, whenever you call upon them. I think my professor happens to be my project supervisor also. So I can't thank him enough, because, for somebody to write like close to like 25 different reference letters for you when you are applying for scholarships, it's not something that is very easy to do, especially, with the tight schedule of your professors. But, the kind of relationship I've had with him, like sending text message, happy new month, sir, may Almighty God, you just have to build the relationship. It's not something that happens overnight. You can imagine you have not reached out to your professors for like over a year after leaving school, or 2 years, and you just messaged him that you need a recommendation letter.
Yeah.
We are hot humans anyway. So he's actually going to look at it like from where to where. So I think if you are just leaving school now,
it
is not too late for you to like build, the relationship with your professors. I think it's going to go a very long way in assisting you in collecting this reference letter moving forward. So I think it's something that is really nice to do.
Yeah, it's true. Abib, you've said it well. I think it's very, very important that we keep that connection between our assessment process and our professors. After school, I still kept on engaging my professor. Everybody have, some students are so like distant away from their lecturers. They don't want to have anything to do with their lecturers, but guys, I'm sorry, you would use them one day. If you want to continue in this professional field, you need them. You need one person, and you have to appreciate them. Keep in touch with them. If you finish school, start building that relationship now. Once in a while, send them, hey, hi, sir, this is Betty from your school, blah, blah, blah. And you can just keep on that relationship, and it will do you well in the coming future in terms of maybe school application and any other application you are doing. I think we've answered the question on when we submitted our application. I mentioned I submitted my own on the 10th, but press the button on the 14th. And you mentioned you submitted your own on the 12th, right?
Yeah.
I think we can go to the next question, which is, what key advice do you have for all university and scholarship applicants?
Well, I think for some people, they can be lucky, to get the scholarship in their first round of application. And some, you can be unlucky and not get it. I think I started my scholarship application in 2018. And at first, I think what led to my application was it was during my NYSC, the national service in Nigeria, and I saw one of my friends. He was reading IELTS textbook, like the English test for IELTS. So he was reading the textbook, and I was like, "What are you reading? What is this?" And he said, this is like an English test for applying to schools abroad. If you have maybe like a first class, 2-2, second class upper, you can always get a scholarship. I said, are you serious? is this something that is achievable? And I was like, it is achievable. People have done it. You can also do it. So that was like the turning point for me, in trying to like explore what graduate school application looks like.
Wow.
So that
Okay.
was how I started, applying at first. It was very difficult because, I noticed that I looked back at some of the documents that I submitted, like my motivation letter, my CV, and I was really ashamed of myself because if I was on the admission team, I was not going to choose myself with
I can imagine.
with those kind of letters and CVs that I submitted at those points. So and with more application, I started learning why I was rejected for this particular application. I think as an applicant, what you should focus on is like the motive of the scholarship. What does this scholarship aim to achieve?
Yeah.
I think from there, if you can figure that out, then you'll be able to draft a compelling motivation letter, that is convincing for the graduate team that is, performing the recruitment or the admission recruitment of students. So I think the first thing I believe is go through the application page, go to the program website, know what the program is about before drafting your motivation letter, because a lot of us just feel, okay, for example, I graduated with geography, and I'm currently, studying a program on environmental risk and human security.
Yeah.
Look at, okay, now I graduated with geography, and I am building all my scholarship application around something that is not related to it. Maybe I'm building it I'm writing on cultural geography, whereby this university is looking for, people that have been in the environmental risk field.
Yeah.
So it is something you have to like be able to differentiate what the program is about before, trying to like draft a motivation letter. So at the first glance, when the graduate admission team looks at your motivation letter, at the first glance, if it doesn't match what the program wants, then you have been screened out. That is like the first thing that you should just make sure you go to the program's website. What is this program about? Who are the kind of students they want? What are their alumni doing? So that is like the first thing that you should do.
Yeah.
And another thing is, don't stop applying. Because during my time, I think I applied to, it was a whole lot. And I'm actually not. It was a whole lot. I applied to like, let me say 20 something.
Oh my God.
So
how old are you? Are you 50 years?
It was a whole lot. So when you apply like that, you make sure you submit your best applications for any project. I tell people, don't just submit applications. Make sure you submit your best applications. And at the end of the day, I got DAD, which was the last one that I submitted, and by far the easiest application. So I think you also have to look out for that. And another thing is rejections are going to come.
Yeah. And
they should not break you. For me, I and some of my friends, we try to call rejection a love letter. When we receive rejection letter, maybe unfortunately, we are sorry. I have just received a love letter. So whenever I receive a rejection letter, something that used to, happen is I try to like maybe release 2 more applications. Anytime you send me a rejection letter, I send 2 more applications outside. Like as if I'm retaliating. I send 2 outside for another scholarship fast. I don't let that, I don't let the rejection, defeat me. I try to like put more, effort in my application. So, and also you have to, pray to God Almighty, because we can't say luck is not there. You can be lucky and you might not be lucky. So like Betty said, she forgot to like, submit her application, and it was after later she checked on it that. So I think you can see where luck came in our own case. So yeah. And most importantly, God, just pray to God that your application should, you should submit the right application. I think that is like what I feel about, how I can, give advice to the people coming on that are trying to like apply to scholarship programs.
Okay, let me ask you that question before I also answer that question. What do you think about individuals who allow people to work on their documents?
Okay. I think the program will defeat you. Because another thing is, the program is very, very rigorous.
Mm.
You have a lot of work to put in. And from what you are submitting, even you yourself, you are going to feel dumb. If eventually, you actually, get into the program with some, maybe like a motivation letter that was written for you or something. The program is going to defeat you, and you are going to feel less of yourself in the long run, because you get some, terminologies, readings that you have to do. But it's not really about getting into the program. It's about, do you fit into the program? So you also have to, take note of what you are coming to. Like I used to tell people that graduate school is not a joke. If you're not ready to put in the work, then you shouldn't apply to graduate school. But a lot of people will say, no. Let me just apply first. I tell you, it is not an easy task. You have to put in the work. So even if, you can have scholars, help you to review your statement of purpose. I think I've done that for somebody from Ghana. But I was having free time. Then she sent in her document. She says she's from Ghana. She needed to apply to. I said, you can send in your documents, and I checked that document, and I was like, okay, these are the red flags that I've seen in your documents, and I give her feedback instantly.
Okay.
So I think that was like a very good experience, because she has worked on her document. So in this regard, you can send the document. You can connect with on LinkedIn with any of the alumni that have finished from the program or currently in the programs. You can send them your documents to like just take a look and what they feel about, just 2 cents about your document, and they can tell you like, you did this, and this does not fit into the profile of the program. Can you remove it? Can you reframe this? What do you mean by this? By doing that, it's not like they actually don't want you to get to the program. They are just trying to like correct the red flags that they see in the program, in your motivation letter, that the master program does not want, or is not required from you. So I think by doing that, I think it goes a long way. But if it's like, you have not, tried to work on your documents by yourself, I think in the long run, because you are going to write papers, you're going to do some presentations, ask questions in class, group works, assignments. So if something like that, if you have done something like that, then the program will break you. The program will break you. So
guys, if you're listening in, I'm with Abib, who is a fellow master student here in Germany with the Joint Masters, United Nations, and the University of Bonn. So we are here together, and it has not been an easy journey for us, because it's been from one studies to another. You have to learn for this, you have to learn for that. I'm sure some students also want to go into bachelor's, not only masters, maybe, and also PhD. It might apply to some of you, but we're just trying to tell you that scholarship application, it's more like a sieve to sieve out the individuals who have the capacity to withstand whatever they are going to bombard you in the country or in the particular study. So you have to be well suited. If you have to put on your armor, and that is why they need you to go through that rigorous process, because that is what they can use to select the tough ones from the weeded ones. So you have to understand with them, and you have to know that those scholarship reviewers are suffering because the things they go through, apart from the scholarship, when you are done application, even after the selection, you have to go through an interview. And that interview process, there have been a lot of stories on how students are not even well prepared for that interview process. I would come to that, Abib, and ask you a question on that. I recall when we had like a scholarship gathering, and the chair of the scholarship was informing us on how out of all the students that were interviewed, they selected just the 9 of us in that class amongst the number of students that applied for that scholarship. And they mentioned how opportune we were. But they also highlighted the fact that some students, although have a lot of issues with respect to maybe getting their devices ready for the interview, but some of them are just not prepared. They sit down, they're having a phone, and sometimes the phone is upside down, and their faces are upside down. Some of them are not clothed well. Some they're just wearing anything or with a cap. Their audios are not good. The internet is not good. Please, for that particular interview process, if you can look for a hotel to go and rent, 5-star hotel, please do it. It counts a lot. I don't know how much it counts, but it counts a lot. But I'd like to hear, Abib, what was your experience on the scholarship interview that particular day?
I think the interview was okay because I don't know. After my interview, I knew I was going to get into the program.
Ooh.
Yeah. And one of the most important aspect of the interview was I reached out to previous scholars that have been in the program.
Mm-hmm.
So my interview was more like a question and answer for something that I've been texted on before.
Okay.
So I think it took me like a day or two to prepare for the interview because coming from Nigeria, the internet and everything, and I had to like make sure my laptop was charged. I had to like get fuel for the generator in case. I had to like get one of my brothers. He should stay with the generator in case power should go off. He should put on the generator immediately and
What a
all like that.
Nigeria experience.
Yeah, so it was really, really huge. And I think I went to like 3 apartments.
Mm-hmm.
One of our family friends, I visited their house to like check maybe like the internet connection is better than my own house. So I checked, it was okay, but not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went back to my house. I tried to use 2 different network providers. The first, and then I tried to call my friend on Zoom, and the network was breaking. I was like, what? Then the second morning, I went out to go and get the router. And I connected the router again to like make sure everything was perfect. I was calling my friend, can you hear me? Is it clear? Hello, check. When you're having a concert, before the concert, you're doing check.
Check 1, 2.
Yeah. So everything was perfect.
Okay.
There was no problem. And from there, the interviewers came. I had 3 females, maybe professors, I don't know, but I think I was really ready to like, I think I studied, I still have like a video I made during those periods.
Wow.
Like when I was preparing for my DAD interview, like a video, I was talking to myself, what if they asked me? I read about the program, the research that's coming out from the, from the program, what they have done, the UNU publications, research. So if they're going to like divert me, I read about my motivation letter, everything, my CVs, volunteering activities, work experience, what you are doing and everything. You have to be really, really ready because the questions can come from any angle. They can ask you about your final year project, your bachelor's project. They can ask you about your project you like to carry out in your master's degree. So if you are not with there, you have to be, mentally ready to, to answer all these questions. And I think it was like 15 minutes. Within 15 minutes, you're having one of the greatest interviews of your life. So you have to give it all. That's like the final chance that you have to like, make sure that you convince them that you have to be awarded this scholarship. So I think I prepared very well, reach out to scholars. They said, what is the definition of this? Can you define this? I was like, how? I can't define it. But I started writing it down. And I started writing it down. I was studying about vulnerability. I was studying about disaster risk. So when it was time and they were asking me, what do you think about this? Your final year project, what was it about? And I was telling them, if you do something by yourself, you'll be so confident about what you have done.
That's true.
So that's why I always tell people to like, try to do it by themselves. So I think it was a very good experience for me.
Okay. And I would also want to share my experience in this. I wouldn't say I wasn't prepared. I was prepared, but just that where I was prepared, I don't know. Because I had to go for a work trip, and I was in Kenya with the United Nations Environment Program on the plastic conference. I had to be there. So that day, I decided not to go for the conference and be in the room and prepare. I had that issue of noise at my background because there was a mower or someone mowing the lawn. It was so loud. I couldn't hear myself. At a point, I almost went to hold the man and say, please, can you just stop mowing? But I was able to set myself up. I called my elder brother. I said, please, you have to listen to me as I pitch what I want to say to them, to you. I prepared some set of questions for myself that I think, okay, maybe these were possible questions, especially who I was, those kind of questions, those interview questions of who you are. And like you'll find out most of those questions online, you see them. So I was able to prep myself. You ask me the question, I'll respond to him, and you tell me that if you were the one that received this particular response from a student, would you accept the student? Then I had to start rethinking. I started stop being more formal and tactical to be more personal, like make the particular questions personal, tell them the truth, because you really need a research, you really need a study, and you really need a scholarship. You don't have money to sponsor yourself. And I think this and many more things we kept in place was able to get us to where we are today. So before I open the floor for questions, we have two people who could ask us, or more joining, who could ask us some questions. I would like to ask one last question before we go to discussion. And that is, Abi, after your scholarship application and your scholarship selection, what did you do next? After they selected you, after they said that you've been accepted, what did you do?
I think the first part was telling you to inviting you for interview. Then after the interview, you are told to wait to upload your documents on DAD portal. I think after uploading your documents from DAD portal, you have to wait like, I think a month or 2 months. I'm not sure of the duration. I stand to be corrected. So after that, then the DAD then you keep on checking your DAD portal, and once it changes to funding, then you are there already. You have been picked already. So when I got invited for the interview, one of my friends was telling me, guy, you're almost there. And when they told me to like, components via the molding process. When they told me to like upload my documents on the DAD portal, then I told my friend, and my friend was like, she was like, guy, you have been picked. But now, if the letter is not in your hand, then you have not been picked. That's to me. Okay. I was expecting the letter, then I until I finally got the letter. Mm-hmm. So I was really happy, and I showed my parents. Everybody was like, I called my sister. I was crying. So it was really, really, it was a big moment for me.
Wow.
I called my parents, this and that. My mom was dancing, like, because it has always been a dream for me to study outside the country. Okay. Have international exposure, like, because I always look up to people that are, studying abroad. What are the differences between, how does studying in Germany look like? How does studying in, different countries look like, and to be able to like give back, the experience that you gain worldwide back to your country. So it's a very big moment for me, and I feel proud to be chosen among, equal applications all over the, all over the world. So it was a very big moment for me. I think I was really happy. One of the happiest moments of my life. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I share in that sentiment of being very, very happy. But there's one other thing I did after the application process, in addition to all what you did, Habib, and that is one, to write a letter back to them accepting that particular application.
It didn't take very long for me to say, because I sent it to one of my friends in I think in Canada or thereabout. Okay. He's also a scholar. Mm-hmm. He sent me like, this is how you accept. Be fast, accept it immediately. Immediately, I'm like, okay, of course I'm going to accept it.
Okay, so yes, that's what I did. I sent an acceptance letter immediately, nicely drafted. Guys, we have to pay attention to our writings, how we draft emails or how we draft our document, well justified, numbered, heading, bolded, every subheading should have all the important highlights. It should be looking perfect so that they get to have confidence in the people they are bringing to study, because it's more like a developmental project for them. They are saying that, okay, we want to train people in developing countries so that they can go back to their community and impact their community. So that was a very interesting experience for me also. Very, very excited. My mom couldn't hold her happiness. I couldn't also hold my happiness, but it was one happiness to another, because today they'll say, okay, you passed the first stage, and tomorrow they'll send you that message and tell you, okay, you've passed the second stage, and it just keeps on going. So today you're happy, tomorrow you're happy, but you're not done being happy because you've not gotten the final say of if you've been accepted or not. So it was just a miracle.
And it did not feel like I was actually going to Germany until I entered the plane.
Mm.
And I checked in at the airport, and I was like going straight without any issue. So it didn't read down on me like until I landed in Germany. So like, oh, I think it's real now.
you finally entered. You're finally here, right?
Yes.
And there's one other thing too that told my mind, if I could just take us back a little, which was the visa application. I was so scared of that visa application because I had friends who told me that they were declined, even if they had the school acceptance, the dad accept, they were declined, and I just couldn't understand why. So I went online, I started researching on visa application, visa questions, etc., etc. I had to go through all those things again and again. It like that particular one was my most difficult moment. I had to even go online and I started watching. There's a show from AY or Visa into something like that. I was watching that just to see, because I had never applied for visa in that format before. The only visa application I did was the one, like there was an institution that is more like they're a bridge to the visa application. I was going to the UK, so we're using that format. But this one, you have to go to the embassy yourself, do an interview. I had never done that before. And that's one thing we should really pay attention to. Apart from our motivation letter, the visa application is very, very important. So now we are getting more individuals zoom into the room. As you know, Ghana Man time, program starts at 7, people join at 7:30, but we are Europeans now, please, Abib. So we start at 7 and we end, but guys, the session is recorded. So from the beginning of the session, it's recorded. We'll do well to upload it for you to go and watch. We don't have so much time, so we had to stick to our time today. And on the call today is with me, Abib, a co-master student in the United Nations University, a joint master's with the Unibon. And we've shared with you from the beginning, I shared the entire stages of application from university to scholarship and to some areas that are important, such as visa application. And then now we are in the discussion questions and answer stage. If you have any question you would want us to address, please do well to either put it in the chat box or ensure that your background is less noise or noise free so that you can unmute yourself and share your question with us. So if you have a question, please do well to notify us by raising your hand so that we can address your question. You can as well unmute yourself and ask any question you have on your application processes. I can see Richmond, you have unmuted yourself. Do you want to ask a question? Nazar has also unmuted himself. Do you want to ask a question?
If you have a noisy background, you can use the
Yes,
chat box.
please, you can use the chat box to put in your questions if you have one. But as I mentioned, we are going to upload a session. We already started at 6 GMT or 7 CET. We already started that time. So the video will be available to everyone who wants to have a look at the video. Priscilla, you've unmuted yourself. Do you want to ask a question?
Yes, please. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry I joined a bit late, so I really didn't get the motivation letter, but can you kindly explain a bit into detail what the purpose of the motivation letter is and how it should be drafted to make your application stand out? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Abib, do you want to attend to this question?
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay.
I also try to.
So I mentioned that the most important document in this particular application is your motivation letter. And for the motivation letter, you are supposed to draft 2, depending on this particular scholarship. And as we mentioned, in relation to experience, we are referring to that application and the EPOS, the Joint Masters Program, UNU and Unibon. On the motivation letter, this is the most important letter. In front of you is a draft, and this was the motivation letter I submitted. I had to take out some parts because of privacies. But apart from that, the main objective of your motivation letter is to tell them why you want that particular study and how it resonates with their study. Very important. And your motivation letter should be in 2 bits. The first bit is that of the scholarship, and the second one is that of the university application. So always 2 motivation letters, but it should not differ widely. It could just have the difference of mentioning the school, and the other one should have the difference of mentioning the scholarship grantors. So those are the differences. So I started my motivation letter with my personal life. This story, everybody knows this story by now, because you all know that I am the BISA founder. So in my being inspired with stories from Africa, I always use this, my story. And that was what is very personal to me. So I'm sure you can go and copy it and say you were living in 1-room apartment with your parents. That was my story. So I had to put in my story, okay? And the fact that I didn't want this particular thing to be extended to my younger siblings who are also female. So this was very touching. So the beginning of your motivation letter should be very, very catchy. You should make them want to read the rest. Your motivation letter should not be a replica of your CV. And please, importantly, your CV should be in the Europass format. I mentioned in the beginning of this meeting or discussion that there's a link that will be dropped. You can access that link for more formats, like step-to-step details on your application and some guiding tips. I will drop that in the chat at the end of the session for everyone to go through it. So as I was mentioning, then I went to who I was and what I have been doing. A lot of people know who I am and what I do in my project, but I don't know how those people know that. So I had to put it in, but not replicating my CV. I had to capture this and I had to tell them what my life ambition is, which was my next paragraph. You can see how well structured the document is in terms of justification. I had my letterhead, or the head, motivation letter to join the international, join blah, 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 my address, ending, green regards, my name was there, but I cleaned it, and then signature, you have to sign in relation to this particular application. After that, I told them how very passionate I was and how my work, because this scholarship is one of more practical experiences. After school, you can't really come on this scholarship immediately. It depends, though. We have another scholarship, which is called the Africa Leadership for Africa, yes? So I shared an experience also of one of them who shared her experience with us on how she also applied. And that link is also available in the chat. I'm going to put it there after the session. So I shared how passionate I was, and I also mentioned to them some very key important things in my working experience, like how I've coordinated some projects, started some movements, done some events, and very importantly, how I have published an article, or I published articles and research works. It's very important. They want to see how very research oriented you are, how you are able to take a problem, bring a solution. So if you've not done this, you don't have time, you can as well either wait or still try your luck and apply whatever experience you get from this application. You can put it in your next application. And before that, it's not compulsory you go and write an article if you don't have one, or it's not compulsory you go and write a research paper if you don't have one. But it's good to outline your field of expertise. I also mentioned that while pursuing the master's program, I'll be focusing on this particular case study. It's good to mention that you would want to work on this research during your master's if you are going for master's. I mentioned the topic I want to do and how I'll be able to achieve this. So I stated that I can achieve this because of my experience back again, and this was around this session. And then I moved on to my experience from my undergraduate. It's good to link your degree to your master's. So I had to do that link. And then after that, I had to end with the fact that my long age ambition is to become blah, 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 blah. And I believe there's no better place to help me reach that aspiration. Pamper them, tell them they are the best. United Nations known for their excellent teaching infrastructures, highly skilled staff. And they're like, their head is getting huge. Tell them that you've gone to research on them, what they want, and you are giving it to them. And I mentioned, I look forward to be a great addition and return back home. I mentioned this before. You have to return back home. Tell them you return back home. Even if you want to return back home, just tell them this, please. But please, we are returning home. So Abiba, I'd love to hear from you. What was your experience in this particular?
I think my format was arranged in the following ways. I think the first paragraph focused on, urbanization. Because you have to have a niche. You must be able to have a niche that is related to the program. So I talk about, the growing rate of urbanization in Nigerian cities and how it is affecting, bringing about issues, a lot of, environmental issues. I talked about, flooding issues back in Nigeria, and, and now I'm able to relate it back to my work as an environmental impact assessment analyst. So that was what my first paragraph was about. And my second paragraph was about, my professional and work experience, how they are connected to, the desired programs, and what aspect of, professional parts with the scholarship improve. My third paragraph, I discussed how the scholarship connects to global and national development priorities. For example, can talk about the SDG goals and how they are related to the scholarship, how the scholarship will enable you to make contributions to, to achieving these sustainable development goals. And also include how the project is, linked to your national development.
Okay.
So my fourth paragraph focused on how you intend to use the knowledge gained from the scholarship in the future, and what you will do after the scholarship, and how you contribute to global, regional, and national development. So what are your short and medium-term goals that you have to, and most importantly, you retreat it at the end of because this program is not looking for people that are going to proceed to their PhDs. They are training you as a professional to, go back to your country, be it Ghana, Nigeria, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Bangladesh, to go and, try to work in your country and, give back to your country in the area of, environmental risk and human security. So I think if you can structure, I used to tell people that motivation letter does not have a trick. Writing, the way Betty wrote her motivation letter is different from the way I wrote mine.
Yeah.
Because she started from her story. I started from a problem, an emerging problem back in Nigeria. So I have also seen another scholar in this current program that started with introduction of herself. My name is this, I graduated from this, that. So it's just be yourself.
Yeah.
Tell your own story. I think that's the most important part. Tell your own story, be yourself. Don't try to say because Betty wrote this, you also want to write this. No, it doesn't work that way. craft your own story, write your own story, and you're going to also, I think this is not about the motivation letter, but you're going to submit a writing sample. So is either you submit maybe like a publication that you have authored yourself, not like a second author, just your personal publication, or you write, you submit your bachelor's project, or you can submit a manuscript or a chapter 1 or a research proposal. Something, I think in my own case, I submitted a manuscript from my bachelor's project. So, and you have to make sure that it is not a copied work, it is your original work, because every document you submit is going to go through a rigorous test, for authenticity. So you have to be very sure you're not submitting a research document of maybe like a professor in Ghana or something. You're going to be caught, and that's the end of the application. So just write your own story, feel free, things that that you have done that is big, put it there. You have coordinated this in Ghana. You have, you have talked with this. You have given professional talks on, climate change. You have articles in newspapers. You have appeared on television shows talking about disaster risk, climate change. Try to blow your own trumpet. They don't know you, but it is what you write down for them that they will used to know you. So it's not like blow your own trumpet. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, with evidence, with proof, with links that they can just easily click on and, oh, this is true. She has an article published in international journals, this and that. So it's really cool that you can just write your own story, be original.
Yeah. Okay, so this brings me to the next questions. I hope we've answered your question, Priscilla, on motivation letter. If you have any further question, you could do what to put in the chat, or you could unmute yourself and we could hear from you. Another question in the chat says that, what are some of the legit or trusted sites or schools open for application so far? Before Abib will respond, I would like to say that this, you'd have to go online and research on it. But for the meantime, right now, we have the UNU, the Joint Masters Program on Geography of Environmental Risks and Human Security, open for this, it's open for application, and it would end on the 15th of December. On the 15th of December, we just mentioned this to you. This is what I'm aware of. I am not going around searching for scholarship because I already have scholarship and I already have a school. So I don't know how much I can answer this question. But Abib, if you have a question, a response to this, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, I think if in scholarship application, you have to be, I call it my second job because it takes a lot of time, and you also have to dedicate a lot of time to it. Like now you are saying, what are some of the legits? I don't know what you mean by legit though, or trusted sites or school open for application so far, but I think you have to do that by yourself because you don't know, I don't know your field, so I can't tell you the ones that are open. But I think right now you can look at the Erasmus Mundus scholarship. It's also a very big scholarship in Europe, and they have a lot of mobility in different universities. You can search, Google search Erasmus catalog, then you put in, you search for your course of study. Maybe if you study geography, you can put it geography, and you see a lot of courses on geography, maybe like rural development, flood risk program, coastal hazard risk at IHF, the Institute for Water Education in Netherlands. A lot of applications. It just depends on how much work you want to put into it. Go to, you can say today I'm looking at Italy, go to a university in Italy, check what are the available funds for students, what are the available scholarships for students. There are some scholarships that you won't even see online that are available. You won't even know that this school is offering a particular scholarship until you go to their website and go and research. Not everybody have the, the ability to be, saying, I apply for this, apply for this. There are a lot of scholarships that are open that you have to go to the school website, look at it. Do I qualify for this scholarship? And yes, you qualify for the scholarship. So just, a lot of work is going to be done by you, and nobody's going to spoon feed you. You have to do most of the work by yourself.
Yeah,
go to this scholarship, and a lot of information are scattered around LinkedIn.
that's
LinkedIn
true.
also, you see a lot of, PhD funding, master's funding. A professor is looking for so students willing to research on, climate change and disaster risk. You can always, send an email. My name is this, I'm from Ghana. I have a background in geography. I have a research paper on climate change. And, just, introduce yourself and, do it. A lot of applications are open. It
Yeah.
just depends on how you are willing to find them.
Yeah, and it brings my mind to that particular word of being of legit. I had this particular incident where it was almost a scam, or should I say it was a scam of one man reaching out to my director that he has a particular scholarship application in Australia, and this particular application needed someone who is very good and blah, blah, blah. Because of my working experience, my boss referred me to that person, that particular man. I got in touch with him and he asked me to pay some money to join a club that's not for the scholarship, but it's for the club. And I said, okay. And I reached out to my boss and asked him, is this thing particularly legit? And should I apply for it? And he said, oh yeah, he thinks it's legit. The guy reached out to him on a well-known platform on that particular application. And me too, I didn't do a lot of digging. So I paid the money. That was around 3,000 Ghana cedis to join the club. Like I think back and I'm like, oh my God, like, oh my God. After that, this man reached out to me again and said I had to do a police something form, like a police something. I don't know if you know the name, Abib. Police clearance.
A police clearance or police report.
Police clearance. And that is when I started thinking, I said, hey, since when does scholarship application require police clearance? Hey, good. And that was how I then started digging in. So I did all my diggings and I realized that this man has been going from one student to another, scamming them on scholarship application. And he's just taking their money. And I regretted so much that I felt for that particular scam just because of someone at the high authority, because I had to, okay, should I do this? And person like, oh yes, do. So this brings us to, we have to do things ourselves. We have to ensure that we really know what we are going into. If you see a particular scholarship application and you're demanding for money, then you have to ask yourself some questions. Or you see any school application demanding for money, you have to ask yourself a lot of questions. Very, very important. So I think we've done justice to that question. I'm going to go next to the next question, which says, I tried applying for that scholarship, and per the requirement, you need to have at least 2 years of working experience. Can you kindly touch on that for me?
Yeah, you have to have 2 years working experience in related field. So if you are studying geography, you have to have that kind of experience in the geographical field, maybe as a field researcher, maybe as a climatologist, a geomorphologist, a disaster risk specialist. He must be related to the program. So as far as I know, he must be related to the program.
Yes.
And the 2 years is not compulsory to be in a singular place.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you worked with an organization for like a year, you worked with an organization for like 6 months, then you worked with an organization for like 6 months. I have a friend that worked with the UN for like 6 months, and he worked with an organization for like 6 months again. Then he worked with an organization for like another 1 year. So he collected the work certificates from all the 3 places that he worked, and I submitted it and it worked. So
yeah, I think that's true. For work experience, you need 2 years working experience, and it can be maybe in awareness creation, or specifically awareness creation to something related to those field of environment, or specifically on disasters, or specifically on geography, etc. But you should just have something that relates. And you should be very, very creative with your application. If you did a work with GIZ, or you're working with GIZ communication, you should be able to link your scholarship application to your field of expertise. You can link and say, okay, creating awareness in in environmental areas, or like you should just be able to measure that connection, inspiring communities to create awareness of their environments, which has to do with reducing disasters, or more like early warning signs for disasters. You get those things. So as a scholar applicant, you have to be very, very creative in your application. That is if you really want to study that. If you didn't even study that, you could state that you are very, very keenly interested in it, and you are trying to put in further studies to increase your knowledge on that particular field. And I think things can work out. So, people can have a different opinion, but I think it's possible. You're muted, Abi.
It works really well. You have to be creative.
Yeah.
You have to, think ahead. Like, what are things that you have done in your work that are related to this program, and how you can, link it together with the program. So I think it's very important, and you have to pay attention to that. Like I said in the beginning of the program, the first thing is to look at the website of the application. Yeah. What is this program really about? Because a lot of people just think it's really about the scholarship. And the first thing you should look out for is, what is the program about? What do they aim to achieve with this program? And if you are able to try to, figure that out at the end of the day, then you are going to have a very strong motivation letter, a very strong CV, and there's going to be your letter with your CV is going to be interconnected. So you won't really have any problem moving forward. So the 2-year work experience is really important, and it depends on how creative you can be with your work experience.
Yeah, and I think one thing too, you have to be able to communicate that your work experience, as you said, Abib, and you should have a particular platform that people can easily go there and see all your work. LinkedIn is very important. Most people don't know. You find their LinkedIn platform to be very, very underdeveloped. Like it's so biasly worked on. Your LinkedIn is your another CV. When I want to know someone, if I know your name, I just go straight to LinkedIn and find you. If I find you, I see how you've organized yourself on LinkedIn, and I get okay, sometimes it differs. People can prove themselves away from LinkedIn, but majority of individuals, how they present themselves on LinkedIn tells you who they are and how they go about their stuff. So it's very, very important to get such platforms to display your works. You might not be a socially active person. I had another colleague of mine who's also studying here, doing his PhD. He's not a social media person, but he got scholarship. But because he was able to prove it, how was he able to prove it? He had something. Those are his publications. So you have to be outward going at a particular platform, whether it is social media or articles or blah, blah, blah.
I can remember I was asking Betty that she should put me through LinkedIn because I'm not really a social media person like that. So I was asking her, how do you guys do this thing on LinkedIn? And she was telling, trying to I think it's really important. Yeah. Even while studying, I've seen some just reaching out to me. Can you work as these? I'm still studying. I can really. So it's a very good thing to have an online kind of, engagement, maybe it's a mini website or something where somebody can just search your name on Google and see, maybe you can have publications, you can have articles in newspapers, and something to give you an online presence, not the one of the regular pictures and all. So
TikTok. Once in a while, go online and search for your name, Betty Sabonso, and see what pops up. Just do that. After this call, just go online and type Betty Sabonso, or sorry, not my name, type your name, and see what comes up. That will tell you what other people, when they research your name, would show. So you have to be very careful on what you post online. As much as I am a very socially active, not so socially active, but in a particular direction, I try to moderate whatever goes online about me. So it is very important. It's very important we do that. Do you have any question? Any more questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, as I mentioned before, several links will be added to this video to be shared on the YouTube page and shared with everyone who wants to get access to this particular discussion we've had today. I'm going to repeat myself again that we are not speaking on behalf of Dad or the Joint Masters, UNU and Unibon, we are not in any way speaking on behalf of them. We are only sharing our experiences. And as far as we know, it is very important to lay or give assistance to our fellow colleagues, our fellow brothers and sisters, you and the world out there. This scholarship was not for only us, so we are doing well to share our experience with you so that tomorrow, if you apply, you can get in. We would leave. We would need, they would need more people to fill in those spaces, but don't forget they will sort out for the best, which is very important. So on this note, if there are no more questions, I'd like to refer you to this document reference, the International Joint Masters Program. It's online. We are going to attach the link to this on the video and share with you. And also there's a LinkedIn publication done on scholarship application. Very important. It was done by a colleague of ours here too. So you can reference on that for step-by-step guidance on your application process or any other questions you might ask. Please keep in mind that today's discussion was done purposefully to have everyone come on board, share their ideas or ask questions. And we that we've already passed through the process or the system, we can address your questions or we can address your thoughts. So that's why we created this particular discussion platform. And it was highly sponsored by Being Inspired Stories from Africa. So if you're on this platform and you've not subscribed to Being Inspired Stories from Africa, please, we are recommending you to do so. On this note, I'd like to ask Abib to give a final word before we call the program to an end.
Yeah, I think my final word is very simple. Scholarship application is hard work. You have to put in the work to be successful. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Wow, that's beautiful. I almost thought you were going to say scholarship application is hard work, but the scholarship itself is harder. My guys, it's really hard. Like tomorrow, like this now, we have another 1 week of learning, another 1 week of presentations, etc. It's not so easy. So please, if you have more questions, I don't know if we can answer those questions. I just saw a question on the chat now. Yeah, if you have more questions, you can put it in the YouTube chat and maybe some other people can go and attend to it for you. I don't know if I would have the chance to attend to every question. I don't have that capacity, and that is why we decided to have this particular platform today. So on behalf of BISA and on behalf of everyone have joined today, and thank you so much, Abib. I'd like to say a very big thank you to every one of you that joined today's session. I would want you to put in mind that we are extending that hand to all you to see that let us grow together. Let us grow together. Nobody is going to harbor any information to him or herself. We are providing that platform where everybody have the opportunity to grow. It's not just one person. So on this, I'd like to say thank you and all the best in your application. Keep in mind that this application for this year will be ending 15th of December. Do well to apply if you're applying, and I'll see you hopefully in Germany. Guys, thank you and bye.